Hello, my name is Carissa Ann Costiola. I am doing my project on Cummins Motors Company. This presentation will be a brief overview of the history, the introduction of the company. It's going to go over the 4 P's in the marketing mix as far as the points that Cummins hit on. It's going to give a SWOT analysis, identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that were identified for the company, any kind of marketing issues that were identified, and just a brief recommendations that could be implemented to increase profits and increase overall company production. Cummins Motors is one of the first and still going independent engine manufacturer. They also, with this presentation, it's going to show, like I stated earlier, just overall recommendations just to create what's already a pretty strong company in the engine marketing sector, just to be even stronger and even more competitive with the new competition coming into the market. Cummins was originally founded in Columbus, Indiana in 1919. It was named after Clessie Cummins and financed by William Glanton. Clessie took the beginning work of what Rudolf Diesel started and created an engine that paved the way to Cummins Motors Company and what it is today. William Glanton had to help finance Clessie. He had all the great ideas, great with engines, and really had great insight to create a top quality engine. And William Glanton was a banker that was able to help fund that for him. In 1929 is when Clessie created the first car to actually run on this diesel engine. In 1956 is actually when they started to spread out globally. They first began in Scotland, and what originally started out to be about 98 countries, as far as manufacturing plants and factories, is turning into well over 197, and this is both in countries and in different territories, and it's just continuing to grow as demand is higher and people just like the Cummins motors that is being produced, and it's in high demand, especially in the trucking industry. Clessie led the way to the first 100,000-mile warranty, which a lot of car companies and manufacturers are still offering that today, but Clessie for Cummins Motors was one of the first ones to offer this, and it just showed that they stood behind their product. It was a quality product. It really showed the longevity and durability to the consumer and what they can expect from the product purchasing. And this is just a slide of the basic 4 sectors of Cummins, which was taken from their website. They obviously have a big portion of their thing in the engine business. Different components as far as parts and other engine parts that are needed. A power generation business, which is big for their generators and generators for RV like motorhomes, and their distribution business as far as their global and domestic production and output. And this is one of the P's in our 4 marketing mix P's for the product strategies. Next is their pricing strategies. When the Japanese car market tried to get their foot and their imprint here in the States, they actually tried to create, mostly it was Toyota engines, to mimic the diesel engines that Cummins produced, and they were actually selling it 40% lower than what Cummins was actually in at for their product, which in turn Cummins just remained competitive. They actually dropped their product price to show consumers they wanted their business, they valued their business, and that they cared about the prices they were getting. And they did all this while still producing the best equipment that they could possible and giving that consumer the most for their money. management issues that were identified. There wasn't too many that, as far as the management aspect. One thing was, as far as managing their suppliers, were low compared to most of where they got their products, how they got everything. So with doing this, Cummins really focused more on the bigger corporations instead of the individual consumers, and possibly that could affect as far as customer satisfaction or their wants to deal with Cummins at that time, when they're just trying to focus more on the bigger corporations and the people that were buying in bigger quantities, which now has changed today. And other than that, there wasn't too many as far as the management aspect of problems. And that Cummins really focuses on employee satisfaction, and I mean, they really pride themselves on being one of the best companies to work for. Again, with one of the four P's in the marketing mix was their promotion strategies. Um, they promote and market reduced emission engines to meet the required emissions regulations, which is a really big thing. As emissions standards and regulations continue to get stricter, Cummins is really able to capitalize on that and create an engine that was tough, durable, still that power of a diesel engine, but they were able to meet those regulations without giving up the quality of their engines. A lot of companies, some of them like Ford and stuff, they tried to compete with changing with their emission standards, but they had to give up and give and take for some of their qualities and stuff like that when they were producing, which Cummins did not. And like I stated, they really promote to their consumers the power and the durability, the longevity, the engine performance, which they have a lot of awards proven and picked as like truck of the year and stuff. You'll see on their commercials, just because of the quality engines they put in their cars. They market their products globally to a high demanding consumer, especially the truck driving industry. Trucks like Peterbilt and stuff really pride themselves on using that Cummins engine. And that's especially in the trucking industry, when you hear Cummins Motors or it's talked about, it's associated with quality equipment, long-term equipment, and little issues as far as any marketing issues that were identified. Um, Although Cummins really they produce generators and different other parts like that, they don't really advertise the products as much, like on TV or magazines and stuff like that. I mean, the consumer, if you would buy an RV, you would know, okay, this has Cummins a generator. You know that their engines are good, but you don't really see too much of the marketing and the advertisement, so to speak, of these products that they produce. In 2008, the automotive crisis for the demand, the automotive crisis, the demand of fuel economy cars went up because of the prices of gas. And at that time, Cummins could not offer anything different than that at the time, which led to a lot of major layoffs in Detroit and the decline, and actually a lot of closures of factories. So, really marketing a better fuel economy car, they weren't able to do that at that moment, which led to a big downfall for the automotive industry back in 2000. The SWOT analysis that was done, like I said, identified strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for Cummins Motor Company. The strengths is their consistent top line growth. They're consistently up there with their competition as far as their top line after all their production and selling. They're the leading manufacturers again in diesel engines. They have a strong research and development facility. They really pride themselves on focusing on researching, coming out with the next innovative engine and what the consumers are really looking for in an engine and for their trucks or cars or what have you, whatever they're using as far as the Cummins products. They have a significant presence in developing countries, and their workforce is well over 40,000 employees, and it's continuing to grow, which is a good strength to show for a company that they have a strong workforce like that and satisfied employee workforce. Weaknesses, only a couple major ones that were identified was they have a heavy dependence on limited suppliers, as stated before. It's a limited supplier, which can affect production and output. So spreading that and stretching that out can help. And then their increase in competition and leading to limited market share. Um, the increase of this competition is really having them to really think and re-innovate to try to stay competitive. Um, there's more opportunities that they can grow in the Asian market. They're there, but they're not as big of a presence as they are in other areas. The rise for demand for diesel engines worldwide, trucking industry again is so big, and it's a big thing as far as diesel engines. And without trucks, you don't have your products at your stores. You don't have anything really without your trucks. So the demand to have a high quality, great diesel engine is a great opportunity for them to capitalize on. The tightening of emission standards, as I stated earlier, they really that they focus on that and they keep capitalizing on that and keep coming out with quality equipment that meets these regulations is a great opportunity to continue with business growth and their growth in the filtration market. Some threats is that this again the intense competitive pressures. The rising labor wages affect any company really. Just trying to maintain the proper wages, and it affects whatever their overall revenue is then, and it's obviously way different from when they started at 1919. And then the currency exchange loss when dealing internationally, but they're so big now and global. They really got to watch as far as how their exchange of money is between here domestically and there, and as far as their sales, because they could start seeing maybe little changes in money and input and all that when it comes to their. Here's another um, better laid out diagram that I found as far as the place distribution strategies. And like I said, as you see, as far as the Asian market, it's not that big of a presence. And then their commercial products would be like their engines and whatnot, a big segment that is. But as far as their other generators and power electronics and stuff, it's not as big. So capitalizing on that can really improve their company even better. And this was done back in 2010. Improve customer satisfaction. As I stated earlier, Cummins Motors has received multiple awards from J.D. Power for their high customer satisfaction rate and their award-winning engines. And Cummins Motors also, they're known as the Cadillac of diesel engines because of their performance, and which increases consumer demand. Improve profitability. I found on this website their investors what their expected the growth is. They're expecting growth of revenue 2 to 3 times the rate in the GDP, and laid out its targets for revenues and profitability all the way into 2018. They're assuming that the higher growth and environment in the global economy, and what the company expects to deliver revenue is $31 billion, and earnings before interest and taxes of 18% in 2018 to achieve return on equity above 25%. The company said that in an environment of lower global growth, it expects it to deliver about 25 billion and 16% as far as the earnings before interest and taxes, and that return on equity would be above 20%. If Cummins grows in marketing, their other products like generators and equipment for RVs and other sectors can really affect their profit margin and increase sales. Cummins can continue to be the top provider of diesel engines if they continue to focus on the new changes, what consumers need, what the regulations are, and if they take a stake in that Asian market, it can really increase their suppliers, it can boost revenue, and it can really make a difference for the overall company. And the recommendations that are given here, if Cummins Motors decides to capitalize on that, their competitive advantage can really continue to hold strong, and continue to grow as a company. And these are just references, and